Hey girls, so today we're going to be looking at the Industrial Revolution. This comes up right after our, age of absolutism. So, oops, we should be able to check this out. Let's see. Let's see. You have a quiz on the age of not the age of absolutism. I'm sorry. You have a quiz on the Enlightenment. It's not too hard. I would suggest that you look through. It's due on Friday at 11:59 p.m. I would suggest that you look through your slideshow, the video that I posted for you guys. That'll make it a little bit easier. We had just finished looking at Enlightenment and Napoleon, and now we're going to be looking at the Industrial Revolution. So we know that England was experiencing, you know, what's going on here? England went through its own revolution. We know that. We know that there are different stages to that revolution. So let's check out what's going on with the Industrial Revolution. Current slide. So this was a time of great economic, technological, and social change that began in England between 1780 and 1840. This was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution that we saw in the U.S. It had spread throughout Europe and the U.S., and during this time, power-driven machinery and factories replaced work done in homes. So we're going to see how factories that can what's the word I'm looking for? We see that factories can produce more goods than individuals at home, right? In a factory, you can knit, 20 times more sweaters than a single person can at home. Originally, what people were doing was people were, companies or businesses would get the raw materials. So let's say thread, or they would get the raw materials like cotton, and then they would send it to the homes of women, and then they would harvest the cotton into thread. They would take the thread from that home and send it to another home where women would spin the thread into a sweater, and then at that point the sweater would get sent to the markets and then it would be sold there. Here, we're going to eliminate the work done at the homes and have everything done in the factory. So, okay, this is what we see, people harvesting raw goods. As you can see, it's, backbreaking work. This person is holding a jug up in the air, drinking from it. We see a man holding two jugs, a woman bent over trying to carry as many things as she can. Okay. We know that during the Middle Ages, before the Industrial Revolution, before industrial society, we saw that most of Europe was organized into farming villages on feudal manors where everybody had a job. The manor produced all the food necessary to feed the feudal population. This includes subsistence farming. One of the manor fields were left empty so that it could regain its fertility after being harvested, and animals grazed in these pastures, right? This is the three-field system. Farmers couldn't use all of their available land at all times. The three-field system was inefficient. We know that this did not stick around forever. An agricultural revolution began in England, and it spread throughout Europe due to the following reasons. The population of England was increasing, and they needed more food in order to feed the people. Napoleon's continental system cut off food imports from Europe into England, so England had to produce more food for itself. Okay, remember that? We looked at that with Napoleon. All right, here's the manor system. Looking at the agricultural revolution. So farmers were losing large amounts of crops after animals trampled them. So wealthy landlords fenced in common pastures and experimented with new farming technology. Villages lost common lands and peasants became poorer, but more food was being produced, okay? So with one field fallow, farmers were not able to use all of the available land. However, when you plant crops in every single field, it takes nutrients out of the soil. So they didn't want to deplete themselves of fertile soil. they came up with this idea called the crop rotation, all right, scientific farming. What they would do is every season, farmers would use every field, but they would change what crops are in what fields. So this way, the soil, while it would have been depleted of some nutrients for a certain crop, like let's say you're planting corn, they would switch it, like we saw on this slide, right? And they would swap the wheat to the barley to the clover to the turnips, because each crop harvested different nutrients from the soil. This way, they're producing more crops. They're using all available land. Yeah. Other discoveries and innovations. Jethro Tull invented the seed drill, and this made planting more efficient. American corn and potatoes were growing well in Europe. And we're going to see some results. What did the agricultural revolution do? Essentially, more food was made available, and the population increased. Fewer people are dying, because less people are dying from starvation, which means that the population rate goes up and the death rate goes down. All right, here's some of the machinery that we were talking about, right? So a plow pulled by animals was key. This made agricultural production much more efficient than it was before, because more land could be farmed by fewer people, right? You're not walking, you're on a plow being pulled by an animal. You don't need as many people walking around. This leads to more food and a greater division of labor, meaning that people could work in different, not everybody is harvesting the fields, or not everybody is planting the fields. People can work different jobs and get paid and specialize in different jobs. Okay, so here's a room full of women. Everyone has their own job. Okay. This is what we're going to be looking at for the cottage industry. Do you remember when I gave the example of women turning cotton into thread and spinning thread into sweaters and knitting and doing that kind of stuff in the home? This is what it looks like. So let's look at the cottage industry and capitalism. So capitalism is an economic system based on private ownership of businesses, free competition, and maximizing profits. Let's put that in English, right? Let's put that in freshman year of high school English. Basically, think of it this way. Is Nike owned by the government? No. Is New Balance owned by the government? No. Okay, what about Under Armour? No. None of these shoe retailers are owned by the government. They are all privately owned by Mr. Nike, Mr. New Balance, Mr. Puma, and Mr. Under Armour, right? The government can't tell Nike, hey, or can't tell Adidas, hey, stop selling your Adidas Boost for $180. It's ridiculous, right? The government can't do that because it's a private ownership. The government doesn't own it. Okay? And the shoe businesses, they're allowed to set their own prices because they are allowed to freely compete with other brands, right? If Nike's having a huge sale, maybe Under Armour will drop their prices to compete with the sale. Okay? When you see a good pair of sneakers, they're usually around the same price. Typically they will make these prices super high. Like, for example, Adidas Boost costing you, your $180 per pair. You see at least one person wearing them if you go to the gym every single time. Right? People are still buying them, so these brands can maximize their profits. They're making a lot of money off shoes that are not worth that much money. Okay? Whereas, in the cottage industry, if you think about it, private businesses are saying, hey, you guys, spin this thread. Hey, you guys, get this cotton from the field. Hey, you guys, transport that to the markets and sell them, right? We are seeing that private business owners and private ownerships are becoming a little bit more common. Whereas in the manor system, everybody worked for free so that they could live on the manor. Okay, hopefully this is coming up to us. So the cottage industry, right? Merchants buy the materials, like your wool or your cotton. They take them to be spun. They take them from the field to the house. They take the new yarn that was made from the cotton, from the spinners, to weavers. And these weavers go and they make the cloth. Then they send this material to the dyers, and the dyers make them pretty, they color them, yada, yada, yada. And then they sell the product for more than the material and the labor cost. This is where the profit comes in. So you pay the women that are, or I'm sorry, you pay the men that are getting the materials from the field. You pay the women for spinning the cloth or the thread. You pay the dyers, and then you pay the sewers to make the finished product, right? Maybe you pay each person, $2, $2, $2, and then you sell the sweater for like $50. Think of it that way. You're making a huge profit. Okay, this is the idea of private business. All right, so these are some images of women in the cottage system. They are actors and players in the cottage system. They're being paid for their services. Not much, but they are being paid for their services. So what was the effect of the cottage industry? Big profits for the new class of merchants, and as a new source of income for peasants in addition to farming, right? Because now peasants could work here and here, right? Like I said, division of labor. Labor's being divided. Not everybody's a farmer anymore. Everybody's getting new jobs. With the textile industry and the factory system, the first industry was in textiles. The cottage industry could not keep up with the demand for textiles, which are clothes. And new machines were invented to improve spinning and weaving, right? This was going to help women make clothes faster, and it's going to kind of decrease the need for as many women working, which is how it gets difficult. Think about self-checkout in supermarkets, right? That's one less person that's manning a register, which is one less person that's getting paid. So think of it that way too. As these technological advancements move forward, sometimes it can result in a decrease in employment. The cotton gin separated seeds from the cotton, and it made cotton profitable. And this increased the need for slave labor because slave labor was free labor. As the production of cotton goes up, the increase in the need for slave labor also increases. Okay, these are spinning wheels for threads, spinning mule, the power loom. These are all inventions. The cotton gin. We're going to see the rise of the factory system. So new machines are put into factories because they're too big for homes, and they rely on water power. So the factories want it to be located near water sources. In Britain, we're going to see that factories impacted Britain because mass-produced textiles were much cheaper than your handmade products. Think about it. If you sit there and you make a handmade sweater and you sell it, it's handmade. Everyone knows that handmade products are more expensive. And you can only make one handmade product in, let's say, 2 days, whereas a factory can make 200. So the handmade sweater is worth more because the labor is worth more. Like I said, villagers lost part of their income and they were forced to find jobs in urban factories because they are no longer working out of the home in the cottage system because they're moving out of the cottage system into the factory system. Why did Britain lead the Industrial Revolution? So the climate was good for textile production. It's cool. So the factories are cool. Machinery needs to be cool. That's why in the faculty lounge at Basil's, it's so cold in there because we don't want the printers to jam. That's why we have air conditioning in all of the computer rooms, because you need air conditioning so that the machines stay cool. They had plenty of natural resources, and their separation from the European continent kept them out of the wars, right? Because the British Isles are obviously not connected to Europe. They're northeast of Europe. Northwest. The government encouraged international trade, and they even helped build canals and roads in order to encourage this international trade. Why did Britain lead it? Again, so colonies supplied raw materials for manufactured goods, and they provided markets for finished good to be sold. So basically, the colonies were producing all this raw material and sending it back for it to be harvested and to be woven or produced, and then they had markets to sell them in. No other countries were competing for manufactured goods, and it had a monopoly on new technology. So guys, a monopoly is complete or total control. complete or total control on new technology. So, they came up with it. They can sell these new technological devices for as much money as they want to other countries. They're making a lot of money right now because they have complete total control over industrializing first. And that's the end. So, please make sure you take your quiz. If you have any questions about this, let me know. And please make sure you submit your John Green Industrial Revolution um, crash course worksheet into Edmodo. All right, girls. Enjoy your weekend, and hopefully we can Zoom soon. And you guys have to stay posted on your rough drafts. Okay. Let me go ahead and end this. All right, girls. Enjoy your weekend.